Gun Rights Radio Network has the best pro Second Amendment, pro gun rights podcast available on the net. The podcasts are absolutely free when subscribing using iTunes or Zune Marketplace. Or if you want, you can just listen from the website. Make sure you visit gunrightsradio.com to subscribe. Podcasting freedom, one episode at a time.
But the feedback you get from the timer is the ability to measure your improvement.
And one thing that when you're doing dry fires, you need to be honest with yourself and say, I am going to shoot the A-zone, and make sure that you see that front sight on the A-zone. Because if you are sloppy in your practice or sloppy in your dry fire, it's going to translate into your live fire, and you are going to be, just as poor there as you were in your dry fire. The problem with dry fire is that you have no real feedback of knowing where, you press the trigger on the target. So you may think you're doing everything right, but in reality, you may be doing everything wrong. And you may find out that you have a horrid trigger jerk problem or something of that nature, and then you get out to the range and you're firing real rounds, and all of a sudden you discover it.
No feedback?
So,
one of the little items that we're kind of been playing around with is this is a dry fire tool that's been developed, and it's called a CERT training pistol. And it uses lasers, and by reproducing the size and weight and trigger action of a gun, it provides dry fire practice. Now, Steve said, perfect segue, one of the problems with dry fire is you don't get any feedback because although you've got your gun aligned on target, you're just depending on your own, kind of sense of honor and duty to say, yeah, I broke a good shot. Those sights were in alignment when I pulled the trigger. What the CERT pistol does is, as you prep the trigger, a laser beam comes on the target where the gun is pointed, and then as you break the shot, a second laser comes on. And now they're slightly separated here because of the distance. There's a certain kind of a parallax effect because the two lasers will meet at a distance of about, 15 yards maybe.
Yeah.
But the idea is you can put the gun on the target, and then when the shot breaks, does it remain static, or are you seeing something like this? And so that's giving you feedback. If you see the laser moving between the time the initial prepped laser light comes on and the shot breaks, then you've got a problem. And so it helps by giving you that feedback that you don't just get from just plain dry fire practice. And it's an expensive way to improve your training, but it's just an example of some of the things. There are websites you can go to that will set up targets of varying size that appear on the screen for varying periods of time to allow you to practice your transitions or your draw. For instance, it'll flash up and stay on the screen for a second and a half. If you can't draw and get a shot on it before it disappears, then they'll give you an option. Okay, try 2 seconds, try 3 seconds, and so you do get that feedback. And this is one of those tools, and there's just various things you can do to improve your dry fire.
And I'll put the website up for the CERT pistol so you can go check their website out if that's something that interests you. So a lot of people ask, well, when you do dry fire, what do you do with the trigger? How do you deal with the slide reset or the trigger reset? Do you manipulate the trigger? Do you drop the hammer? Or what do you do? Me personally, what I do is I have the hammer cocked. I do not break the hammer typically. I will simply just press the trigger up against the resistance that I feel, because in my mind, when I'm shooting, that's the state that I'm going to be in when I break the shot, not the very light press that you have after the hammer drops, but basically up into the point that you're normally pressing the trigger before the hammer drops. So that's the state that I leave the gun in when I do my dry fire. So I'll hold up on the target and press the trigger. My dry fire practice typically is a matter of doing transitions, doing draw, doing reloads, things of that nature, because those are the things you typically see in any given stage. Is a lot of draw, a lot of reloads, a lot of target transitions. Every once in a while I'll throw in working on movement, lateral side to side, moving forward, shooting in the move, so to speak, and things of that nature in terms of my practice. Now on a Glock, what you can do is a kind of a trick, is that you can take a piece of paper and wedge it right between the back of the barrel hood here and the breech face, and it knocks the barrel out of battery slightly such that you can then pull the trigger on the gun all the way through. And that's basically the way that I learned to shoot and do my dry fire on a Glock. So you're not dealing with that and then have to rack the slide, as I just basically knock it out of battery by using that shim in there, and you can just press the trigger all the way through, and it really does help out quite a bit. The interesting thing there is that there's still a little bit of resistance here at the back of the trigger travel that is not an exact replica of the trigger braking, but it does somewhat simulate some change in pressure there. The key thing for me on learning to shoot a Glock was trying to deal and learn how to shoot that trigger reset. For a long time, I had a problem of coming all the way forward. My finger would break, and then come all the way off the trigger, and then come back again. That's hard for learning to shoot a Glock, so I want to teach myself to basically operate in that small area right there. And by basically doing this trick of knocking the barrel out of battery, it assists in doing that.
And there are some people that have success with slapping the trigger. I mean, you watch slow motion video of some of even the top shooters, their trigger finger will almost come all the way forward and touch the front of the trigger guard and then come back. If you're successful with it, that's okay. Generally, there's a sense that what you want to do is feel that trigger reset and not come off the trigger any more than that. Again, to reduce this unnecessary movement, you want to keep your finger in contact with the trigger.
So I think one of the other benefits of dry fire is that because of the fact that you're dry fire, your mind is not being distracted by the gun going bang or recoil. So a lot of times if you're trying to work on something new technique, let's say you're working on strong hand, weak hand, shooting transitions, things like that, you're not really having to deal with the recoil and the bang of being distracted by that, and it really allows your mind to focus on the goal of what you're trying to accomplish at that time. So that's another benefit of dry fire. But do definitely try to work dry fire into your shooting tool set. It is very, very beneficial. But again, you need to be honest with yourself and make sure that you are calling your shots, seeing the sights on the target, not accepting anything outside the A zone. I even use on my targets, I'll use hardcover on the targets to, again, require or make myself find the available shooting area.
Right.
I think that's one of the problems with a wide open IPSC target is you just see brown and you go, oh, big target, and you just think you're shooting in the middle of the target, not really finding the available scoring area. So on all of my dry fire targets, I have hardcover, either slashed angles, horizontal, vertical, whatever, and I force myself to see the target in the available area that I'm shooting. And I think that translates into more accurate shooting when it comes to live fire on the stage.
Yeah.
You don't like dry fire, do you?
I should like it. When I used to go to the range, I mean, literally used to go to the range, 3 times a week. I didn't feel like I needed a lot of dry fire. But now the wife and a family, I'm really limited to going to the range once a week. I can shoot a match every week. And so dry fire really is about the only opportunity for practice. I mean, for the last 5 or 6 years, all of the practice I've done has been dry fire. So I probably should like it more than I do. But, it's like doing homework or anything that you have to do it, but you don't necessarily have to like it.
And as ammo got tight, a year ago or whatever, a lot of people, it just got expensive to go do live fire practice. And obviously dry fire costs nothing. And there are other alternatives to dry fire of using airsoft and things of that nature too, where you can go out and do. A lot of people will actually do that of airsoft.
Or rimfire is another thing. You're trying to save money, but even then, it's still limitations to leaving the house to go do it. I mean, that's become kind of the issue with me.
Right, and at some future episode, we'll actually get into rimfire 22 conversions and 22 practice and things like that as a subject. So, okay, I think that covers it. You can hit the website at powerfactorshow.com. Send us email, questions, comments, anything like that at powerfactorshow@gmail.com. Go to iTunes, leave us feedback there. And until next time, see you then.
Bye.